Shabbat Shalom. Wow, I'm very loud. It's wonderful to see some people here. It's wonderful for all of you hopefully joining us online to see some people here too. Even if you can't see them, there are a few people here. And it's great to be together in this new year. And so let's begin.
This is a nigun, a melody without words. We'll add words later. It goes like this. Yai dai dai la dai. Yai dai dai yai lai lai da dai. I tried ya lai dai da dai. Yai lai ya lai lai lai. I. Here's the second part. Yai da 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 da. Yai da da. Yai lai. Yai da 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 da. Yai da da. Yai ya la da da da. Yai da yai lai lai ya lai. Ay ya lai lai ya lai. Yai lai 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 ya lai. Ay la 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 la. Yai lai lai yai lai. Ay ya la la la. Yai lai lai yai lai. One more time. Yai lai lai da da. Yai ya lai lai ya lai lai ya lai. Ay ya lai lai ya lai. Yai ya lai lai ya lai lai ya lai. Ay ya. We'll turn to page 142 for Shalom Aleichem, welcoming in Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharei, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Boachem. HaKadosh Baruch Baruchuni leShalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch
So again, Shabbat Shalom. This evening we began or restarted a custom that we started to do at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, and that was to have Shabbat at the rabbi's table around our home with the laptop and the Zoom camera, and to invite the congregation to join us for Shabbat and for the blessings. And as we did it for the first time this evening, and the first time in a long time, after doing the candle blessings and the Kiddush and blessing our children and the Motzi, I asked those on the Zoom, how they managed to navigate the winter break and what it was that they found strength in order to deal with some of the disappointments of not being able to go on trips, not being able to go away to things, having an extra, not that it's a disappointment necessarily, but having an extra week of children at home from school, and not a disappointment, just a challenge. Um, and really, to a person, they all said that they found really opportunities to just be with each other. They found opportunities to be out in nature as much as the snow and the storms would allow, and to really just be present with each other. And that's really what Shabbat is. Shabbat is that weekly reminder of the blessing of those that are nearest and dearest to us and, God willing, are actually close to us, and the blessing of being able to spend time with them or even spend time with ourselves, to disconnect from the rest of the world and to tune in to what's going on inside here and inside with our relationships. And so whether you're doing that online or you're doing it here physically present, I hope that we can take this Shabbos, just as we might have taken these past couple of weeks, to create Shabbat Menucha, Shabbos rest, and Zaman Kodesh, to create holy time. To do that, we're going to light the Shabbos candles to bring light to our world, and we want to invite Pascal, and where'd my list go? I wrote it down there. Pascal and Nicole to come up and to lead us in a reading and then the lighting of the Shabbat candles. So the reading is right here on a card on the middle podium.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Beautiful. Then if you guys want to go over to the candles on your left and take the center candle, light the other two. It's already lit, so you can just...
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom and thank you.
So this week, we began the month of Shvat, the Hebrew month of Shvat, which you might recognize from Tu B'Shvat, which is the New Year of Trees that we'll celebrate soon, about a week and a half. So we have another New Year. I know we just had the secular New Year, but we have another New Year, which is that New Year for the trees, where we acknowledge and remember that we are part of the natural world. And we're going to begin with Kabbalat Shabbat, which are a bunch of psalms that are filled with connections between us and the natural world, helping us to look outside of ourselves and out into nature. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel talks about living with radical amazement and getting up in the morning and looking at the world in a way that makes you take nothing for granted. So as we enter Shabbat and start singing these psalms together, think about what in your own life, with all of its challenges and struggles and everything, what can you feel grateful for? Is it the joy of playing in the snow before it melted? Looking out at the majestic snow-capped mountains in the distance, or just breathing right here, right now, breathing in Shabbat, breathing in with the sense of radical amazement. We sing joyously together Psalm 95, Lehu Neranena, page 130. Ya lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai lai lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai 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 lai, ya lai lai. lechu neranena l'Adonai, nariya letzur yisheinu, lechu neranena l'Adonai, nariya letzur yisheinu, nekadma fanav betodah, bizmirot nariya lo, nekadma fanav betodah, bizmirot nariya lo. On the next page, Shiru l'Adonai, Shir Chadash, Shiru l'Adonai, Kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai, Baruchu Shemo, Basru miyom leyom Yeshuato, Sapru v'goyim kevodo, V'chol ha'amim nigleotav, Ki gadol Adonai, U'chulal me'od, Norahu, Al kol Elohim, Ay, 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 alay, lalay, lay, alay, lalay, lay, yalay, lalay, lay, yalalay, yalalay, yalay, lalay, lay, yalay, lalay, lay, yalay, lalay, lay, yalalay, yalalay, yalay, lalay, lay, yalay, lay, yalalay, yalay, lalay, lay, yalay, lay, 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 ay, 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 yay, lay, 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 yay, lay, 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 yay, lay, lay, lay. Page 133. Mizmor Shiru l'Adonai, Shir Hadash, Ki niflaot asa, Shia lo yaminu roa kodshotia, Adonai Yeshuato, Beinei hagoyim gilad simchato, Zachar chasdo ve'emunato, Lebeit Yisrael, Ra'u chol asei aretz, Et Yeshuat Eloheinu, Ariu l'Adonai, Kol haaretz, Yitzvu ve'ranenu ve'zameru, Yalay, lay, lay, yalay, yay, lay, lay, yalay, lay, lay, yalay, lay, yay, lay, lay, yalay, lay, 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 yay, lay, lay, yalay, lay, 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 yalay, lay, yalay, lay, 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 yay, lay, lay, yalay, lay, 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 yalay, yay, lay, 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 yay, lay, lay, yay, lay, 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 lay. Zamru l'Adonai bechinor. We sing to God with any instruments that we have, guitar, our voices, our bodies, our souls. Top of 134. Zameru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor v'kol zimra. Zameru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor v'kol zimra. Zameru, zamru, l'Adonai. Zameru, zamru, כינור וקול זמרה. So we turn now, page 138, to Lecha Dodi. Beloved, come meet the bride, come to greet Shabbat, the Sabbath bride. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yaranai 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 bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yaranai 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 bnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamar וזמור ודיבור אחד השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ושמו תפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה ירדאי 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 בני שבת נקבלה. Dodi likrat kala yaranai 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 bnei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 2. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki mekor haberacha verosh mikedem nesucha sof maser v'machshavat tefila. Bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yaranai 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 bnei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 5. Hitoreri hitoreri ki va'orech umiori uri uri shedaberi evola. Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yaranai 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 bnei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 9. Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam v'simcha u'metzola. Toch emunei am segula boi chala boi chala. Turn back to the front, stay standing all together one more time. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yaranai 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 bnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yaranai 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 bnei Shabbat nekabela.
We remain standing as we turn to Chatzi Kaddish, page 263, and prepare for Shema and its blessings. Chatzi Kaddish, as we make a separation between that Kabbalat Shabbat portion of our service that the cantor just led us through and the prayers and tefillot that maybe we are so familiar with as we welcome this moment of connection and prayer. Page 263.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועלמא דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה, ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעלמי עמיה יתברך, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילם עם כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ויאמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
May be seated. So we join together on page 265, Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhma poteach she'arim, u'bitbuna meshane itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'misader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב ערבים. אמן.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונצמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה ואהבתך. אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בין שבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Amen. So we turn to page 270. We'll join in this song of Micha Mocha, which actually we're going to sing next week. Next week's Torah portion, B'Shalach, is Shabbat Shirah. So this week in our Parashat Bo, this is the parasha where the Israelites are getting ready for this moment, where they don't have time for the bread to rise, and they have their matzah, and they're going out with their staff in their hand and their sack on their back, and just that anticipation of freedom is something that I think is such a huge part of the story of our redemption from Egypt, is what it took to be ready to go in that moment, to be alert and have the capacity to just take that step. For many of us, I think we know that there are big ideas out there that are important, that we are pursuing redemption for ourselves, for our world, but sometimes we get worried about, when will it be? Are we ready? Are we going to know when we're ready? But I think that in many ways it's just having that capacity to know that when we are called upon to act in the world, that we have it within ourselves to be ready to take that step. So let us join together, page 270.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר הקודש. נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע הים לפני משה ומרים, זה לינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך, אדוני ימלוך, לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Amen.
On the next page, we'll turn to the third line from the top. Ufros aleinu sukkot shlomecha, shelter us in the sukkah of your peace. Ufros aleinu sukkot, sukkot shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukkot, sukkot shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukkot, sukkot shlomecha. Baruch atah Adonai, haporeh sukkot shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
I once had a friend, a colleague who was a Jewish educator who liked to teach children and families about Shabbat by using an analogy of Shabbat is kind of like a snow day. That on a snow day, we know that snow is coming, and so we prepare, we get the food necessary, we do all the things to our house to make sure we have our shovels and our salts and things like that to prepare. And then when the snow comes, there's nothing that we can do except to be, to play in the snow and to enjoy and to be cozy inside by perhaps the warmth of a fire or a cup of hot cocoa. But that there is something that is so liberating about being stuck. And I know we felt really stuck, not just because of the snow, but because of COVID. But there's something about the snow day. There's something about knowing that we really have no place to go except for where we are. That there is something about being present in time and place and acknowledging our blessings and just being in awe of the beauty of the world around us. So as we acknowledge that feeling of Shabbat and maybe a little bit of what we experienced these past days with all of our snow, we'll join together page 272, Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. Yam dai dai dai, Shabbat Shabbat, yam dai dai dai, Shabbat Shabbat, yam dai dai dai, Shabbat Shabbat, Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ים ברדאי, שבת שבת, ים ברדאי, שבת שבת, ים ברדאי, שבת שבת, שבת שבת shalom.
We'll rise together now for the Amidah, beginning page 274.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor ve'Hanora, Elyon גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיה מתים אתה רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם מכלכל חיים בחסד מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים צומח נופלים מרופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו בשני עפר מי כמוך על גבורות ומי דומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה למען אתה לחיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Amen. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
Amen.
Please be seated. We join together now on page 277, the bottom paragraph, 3 lines down. Kadshenu b'mitzvotecha.
קדשנו במצוותיך ותן חלקנו בתורתך קדשנו במצוותיך ותן חלקנו בתורתך שמנו מטובך ושמחנו בישועתך צבנו מטובך ושמחנו בישועתך יאי די 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 יאי די 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 יאי די די די
Page 279, Ritzeh.
Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu be'amecha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'ahava tekabel u'tehile ratzon תמיד עבודת ישראל. ישראל עמך, אל קרוב לכל קורב, פני אל עבדך לכוננו, שפוך רוחך עלינו, ותחזינה עינינו, ושובך לציון. ברחמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, המחזיר שכינתו לציון, לציון.
For all of the many blessings of each day, we give thanks with these words, V'al kulam, the middle of page 281.
ועל כולם, ועל כולם, יתברך ויתרומם, יתברך ויתרומם, שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד. בכל החיים יודוך סלע, ויהללו את שמך באמת, האל ישועתנו ועזרתנו, עזרתנו סלע. ועל כולם, ועל כולם, יתברך ויתרומם, יתברך ויתרומם, שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך, הטוב שמך, ולך נאה, נאה להודות.
Our prayer of shalom, of wholeness and peace, page 282.
שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה משלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
Take Take a moment as individuals for our own silent prayer. We turn now to page 371. We offer a Misha Berach for healing for all of those in our extended community of family and friends who are in need of healing, be it refuat haguf, healing of their body, or refuat hanefesh, healing of soul. We think in particular the Shabbat of John Silver, Mark Rosen, Eric Schneider, Elisheva Tehila Bat Yam Bat Avraham Vasara, Doris Medved, Ralph Sauer, Rena Mazer, Janet Gelb, Alicia Eckersley, Jean Angus, Robert Calwes, Bob Fanning, Mel Karp, Avram Sudak, Daniel Gottesman, Merle Granberg, Yehudit Bat Avraham Vasara, Dina Mandel, Ralph Schulman, Basil Kalner, Howard Diamond, Isabel, Judy Steiner Lossberg, Alana James, Dr. Dimitri Zanazin, Shana Stawicki, Sanford Cohen, Sarah Bat Avraham Basara, Igor Ilyasov, David Shlomo Gorney, and Andrea Jarzbiak. I invite you, if there are other names of people you're thinking of you'd like to include in our healing prayer, if you'd rise and share their names out loud. As well as anyone at home, if you would like to include the names of people you're thinking of, we'll join together in these words of blessing.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. The renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
As our thoughts are with those who are In need of healing, we also add the words of blessing for those who help to facilitate healing, for all of the healers and the caregivers who have worked so diligently and without end these past months. And so we want to offer this blessing, this prayer for the healers. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless all those who put themselves at risk to care for the sick, physicians and nurses and orderlies, technicians and home health aides, emergency responders and pharmacists, hospital social workers and respiratory therapists, those who care for our elders, who navigate the unfolding dangers of the world each day, to tend to those they have sworn to help. Bless them in their coming home and bless them in their going out. Ease their fear, sustain them. Source of all breath, healer of all beings, protect them and restore their hope. Strengthen them that they may bring strength. Keep them in health that they may bring healing. Help them know again a time when they can breathe without fear. Bless the sacred work of their hands. May this plague pass from among us speedily and in our days, as we say together, Amen. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you again for coming tonight, those that are here, and thank you all that are watching online. I know that it's a little confusing sometimes, the messaging that we're sending from the synagogue. Come to shul, don't come to shul. We want you to be here if you want to and feel the need to be here, and we want you to feel comfortable to stay home as well if you feel that is a safer place to be, recognizing that we have this wonderful technology that can allow us to be virtually or remotely present. And so don't put yourself in harm's way. Torah says, B'chai b'chem, live by the words of Torah, not to risk our lives by them. And so wherever you find your comfort and your safety, we hope that that is where you are tonight. Just to draw your attention to a few announcements. First of all, following our service tonight, for all those that are here, we can go into Sarah's tent. We have it set up in our hybrid classroom. There'll be a virtual Shabbat shmooze, a virtual Shabbat oneg. We're not serving any food here right now because of all the COVID stuff, but we've set up our Zoom classroom so that those online can join us. The link will come up on the screen at the end of the service, and we can join together. And those that want to stay, we can schmooze with those that are here and those that are home. Tot Shabbat is going to be held online only. And then tomorrow we invite you not only for Shabbat services and Torah study in the morning, and then afterwards, again, another Shabbat shmooze. But at 7:30 tomorrow night, we're going to do Havdalah, also via Zoom from our various homes. So join us online for that. We did it, again, during sort of the height of the pandemic. I'm not sure what the height of the pandemic is anymore. It all feels like a height. That's at 7:30, and I don't remember if it's Cantor Cohen. Is it you tomorrow night? As well as Rabbi Brown, and they'll do stories and songs, and we'll light the Havdalah candle and say goodbye to Shabbat for the week. More going on at the shul on January 11th. There is our Tu B'Shvat Seder. It's a virtual Seder. It's the New Year for Trees, as was mentioned. It's for our 20s and 30-year-old, part of our next gen, as well as our JIC class. You can register online on the website for that. Our men's club on January 12th has an online poker night. So you can also join us online for the poker with our men's club. January 26th, towards the end of the month, there'll be a lecture by Dr. Mark Wexler from SFU on exploring the origins of misinformation in contemporary society. That discussion is going to highlight the emergence of the post-truth era. We can, trusting in the authority of experts, essentially discern fact from fiction. Not friction, but fiction. So join us for that. The last thing I'll just mention is that on Thursday, January 20th at noon, we'll begin a 6-session program on the history of Zionism with one of our Jewish educators, Mike Hollander, who grew up in Vancouver, made Aliyah to Israel, is a Jewish educator in Israel right now, and has taught for us before, present, and remotely. So join us for that. It's free. It's at noon, and Mike is an incredible educator. And if you're familiar, the tourism industry has really been decimated in Israel today. Many of these educators, don't like to call them tour guides because there's much more than tour guides, have been out of work, and this is an opportunity not only to learn from them, but also to help support them and their families. So please join us for that program. Any announcements I missed? Okay. So this week's Torah portion is Parshat Bo, and in it, God sends the 8th and the 9th and then ultimately the 10th plague. The 8th and the 9th plagues being locusts and then darkness upon the Egyptian people. But even after those 8th and 9th plagues, Pharaoh still does not let the Jewish people go. And so a 10th plague descends upon Egypt, the plague of the killing of the firstborn, Makat Bechorod. And it is only after that plague that Pharaoh finally relents and lets the people go. And, spoiler alert, he changes his mind later, and there's a whole rest of the story to go. I don't think that I have ever thought about plagues as much as I have in the last 22 months, and probably you haven't either. For obvious reasons, that noun has taken on a whole new world of relevancy for us. In present day, compared to our chanting of it around the Seder table at Passover time, plagues are suddenly very real. No longer the stuff of folktale or legend or even imagination, but now they're part of the evening news. They're part of the daily health briefing. We read in Torah concerning the 9th plague, that plague of darkness, of Choshech, and Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all of the land of Egypt for 3 days. And they could not see one another, neither did they rise anyone from his place. Rabbi David Wolpe, my teacher and friend, writes in this week's Jerusalem Post, saying, quoting here, "When locusts are swarming in the sky or hail is pelting the ground, human beings are helpless. You cannot trap every frog that infests the land, but we all know how to counter darkness. Candles. Thus, there is an obvious question about the plague of darkness that arises that doesn't come with any of the other plagues. Why didn't the Egyptians just stop that plague? Why didn't they just light a candle to do away with the darkness?" A deep answer comes from a famed Sephardi commentator and Kabbalist, when later in the same verse it says that the Israelites enjoyed light in both their homes and their dwellings. The Or HaChaim, whose name literally means the light of life, says it could mean that the light of the Egyptians, it could mean light in the Egyptian dwellings, and it could also mean light in the Hebrewite dwellings as well. That there was light to see and there was light to be seen. But the darkness was not in the atmosphere. It wasn't that outside. It was a darkness inside the Egyptians. Rav Yitzhak Meir of Gur observed that the greatest darkness exists when we can't see each other, when we can't appreciate each other's pain. What author and social commentator James Baldwin termed blind indifference. Sadly, the plague of darkness, of blind indifference, of not seeing each other, it's in our midst. It still afflicts us today. This week, yesterday, marked the anniversary of the attack on the U.S. Capitol. In Kazakhstan, those protesting exorbitant fuel prices were violently put down by Russian troops. Around the world, on the left and the right, the voices that are crying out in anger and in frustration, they are crying out to be seen. If you read the New York Times and all their wonderful pieces about January 6th, so much of it focused on the fact that it was not about that former president as much as it was about the anger that is both on left and right in the United States and really around the world about not being seen. A plague of darkness. There's so much darkness in our lives today. Here in Canada, the federal government announced compensations and investments in victims of residential schools. Another instance of those right before us asking to be seen. We are trying. In this country, and I think good people around the world are trying through the important and at times awkward use of pronouns and land acknowledgments and other things, trying to shine a light on those who in our society have been systematically blind or indifferent to. But I fear that such linguistic hoops and hurdles pay only lip service to the greater blindness that our rabbis speak of when commenting on that plague of Hoshech, that plague of darkness so bleak that human beings could not see the other person, the other that was right there in front of them. The rabbis comment that the blindness of the ninth plague was the thickness of a gold dinar. That's a biblical coin, a gold coin. The early 20th century commentary Torat Tamina builds on this idea that the darkness was an attribute of the Egyptians themselves, not of the atmosphere, not of the darkness outside, when it writes that the darkness was like a cataract over the eyes of the Egyptians. Why compare blindness to a thick gold coin? It's to remind us how easily wealth and privilege can blind us to the plight of others. I thought about this too this past week as that storm and snow descended upon us in our city. My family watched through our triple-pane glass picture window as snow fell down in sheets of ice and rain, all warm and comfortable in our home, cozied up on our sofa, hot chocolate, Netflix on, comfortable and warm, a soft blanket, all blinding us further to what those without shelter and convenience were experiencing at the same time. Blindness like a thick gold coin. As a large body of research points to a compassion deficit that exists in the rich that plays out in big and small ways. Scientific American reported almost 10 years ago now that people in expensive cars are more likely to ignore pedestrians, and that the wealthy actually give a smaller percentage of their money to the poor than those that are less wealthy do. As Rabbi Wolpe, who first pointed me to that study 10 years ago, this is not because bad people make money, since you can even create this bias artificially with monopoly money in a game. Rather, wealth insulates people from need and from dependence. Those among us who are fortunate must battle against that tendency to allow the gold dinar to blot out the suffering of others. Judaism is designed to combat this tendency in people by mandating tzedakah. Tzedakah and gimilut chasadim, they actually are the candle. They are the light, the ner tamid that must keep burning to fight against the darkness of indifference. What does it say about us as individuals, let alone as a collective society, that if we know how to end a particular plague, the plague of darkness, the plague of indifference, that we have the power to end that, the ability to end that, and we don't? Such is darkness, but fail to do so. What will it take for us to light a candle and to shine a light to illuminate the darkness that surrounds us, that blinds each of us, that blinds us to the hurt, to the suffering, to the trauma, to the yearning of those that say, see me, hear me, acknowledge me for who I am? The Mishnah asks, at what time do you begin to pray in the morning? Literally, it's asking, when do you recite the Shema? And the answer is, when one recognizes the face of their fellow, the face of their friend. In other words, we turn to God through acknowledging the face of another human being, seeing them for who they are, for all that they are, not blind nor indifferent to them. In Egypt, in a place where there was no God, though there were many gods, the plague of darkness dramatized the extent to which people could not see each other, not because they were strangers, but because each one could not overcome their self-absorption. The plague of darkness is one that we must overcome every day. In the immortal words of Dylan Thomas, do not go gentle to that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. That's the lesson of the ninth plague. That is our task as human beings, as Jews, as an Or LaGoyim, as a light unto the nations, to light up the world and to chase away the darkness, to start seeing each other. And it starts with me seeing you, and you seeing me, and all of us seeing all of us around us. Shabbat Shalom. Our service is going to continue. Page 586 will rise for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו. וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת. אין עוד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. A reading before the mourner's Kaddish, as we recall loved ones who are not here but whose memory is, and whose life continues to guide us and to be a blessing to us. Page 581. I used to be part of you, belong to you, the extension of your being, but now you live within me, are the spark of my consciousness. As I say Kaddish for you and with you and as you, sing your melodies, speak your words, hearing your voice in mine, and my eyes, also green, have somehow started to reflect the blue of yours. I used to be part of you, protected by your presence, by your light. But now the time is mine, and alone, I must be more than myself. Your child has become your heir, has become you. On this Shabbat, we recall those who died during this past week or these past 30 days, whose families are in the midst of Shiva and Shloshim. If you are here or at home, we invite you to rise and to remain standing so that we might comfort you in our midst. Ray Ann Brackett, Helen Coleman, Ronald Fratkin, Meyer Gabay, Arnold Konevsky, Rivka Saraf, Barbara Shumiakter, Ben Verstig, Rosalind Waterman. And those for whom the Yortzeit, the anniversary of the death of your loved one, is on this Shabbat, if you too could rise and remain standing, here or at home. Evgeny Altshuler, Audrey Arbor, Leah Bassing, Marie Bertrand, Isaac Belker, Samuel Bregman, Adele Chechik, Max Chimes, Russell Chiachi, Eva Dirpak, Lee Dobbs, Mickey Dornan, Edward Dozer, Stephen Estrin, Min Fairman, Frankie Gopal, Ida Goldstein, Isaac Goslin, John Michael Hodges, Timothy Ilisov, Debbie Eisen, William Andrew Jenkins, Cindy Kaplan, Jacob Gray Kleiner, Anna Kovanitsky-Rabinovich, Paul Krieger, Dr. Alexander Lester, Anne Levy-Lloyd, Francis Malik, Alfred Mayer, Agnes Myers, Ivan Netter, Diana Claire May Parnell, Jan Pollock, Dr. Myron Prinsmetal, Belia Rutlinger, Mary Richmond, Sidney Rodberg, Morris Rose, Ann Rubenstein, Norman Sanders, Simcha Silver, Renee Stahl, Sophie Stitz, Harold Vines, Daniel Weinstein, Adam Warenka, Claire Wexler, Michael Young, Eliezer Zigden. There are others who've come to say Kaddish to remember loved ones. If you could rise and call out their names as well. And if you're davening with us from home, we invite you to do the same, to stand even in your living room. We hope not alone, but even so, if you are, to know that we stand with you at this time as we all rise together. Recalling the names of all those who died in defense of freedom and justice, victims of terror in this land, the land of Israel, around the world, and those who died in the Shoah and the Holocaust that have no family left to remember them. We recall them for blessing as well. We join together in Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, page 598. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, b'yomad yivrach Yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon of yomechon u'chayed chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agalav izman kariv v'yimaru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitruman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudisha b'rechu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, Daminron be'alma v'yimaru, amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru, amen. Osei shalom b'imrumav, u'ya'asei shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimaru, amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort the bereaved among us. We say together, amen. You can be seated for a moment. We're going to do Kiddush and Motzi here. Again, because of COVID, we're not at a position right now to serve food in the congregation. It pains me greatly because people come for the cookies. I mean, it's, you know. And then following that, we have a closing song, which is a connection to the Nigun that you started us with this evening. Same tune, but this time with words. Wow. So I'm going to go down here to lead Kiddush. This just means I get all the grape juice. Vayhi Erev vayhi Boker Yom HaShishi vaychulu hashamayim va'aretz v'kol tzava'am vaychol Elohim b'yom hashvi malachto asher asa vayishbot b'yom hashvi mikol malachto asher asa vayvarech Elohim et yom hashvi v'kadesh oto kivo Shabbat mikol malachto asher bara Elohim la'asot Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishar mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'ahava v'ratzon itchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'charta v'otanu kidashta mikol hamim V'shabbat kodshecha v'yahava u'ratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh haShabbat.
Amen.
L'chaim, to life.
Time. So these words come from kind of the middle of Psalm 96. So if you want to follow along, it's on page 131. But you can also sing Yalai, or try to follow along with the words, which are on the screen. If you're on virtually, you can find the words there. I think. I don't know. Goes like this: Ya'alo Sadai V'chol Asher Bo Ya'alo Sadai Ay 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 Ya'alo Sadai V'chol Asher Bo Ya'alo Sadai Ay 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 Ya'alo Sadai V'chol Asher Bo Ya'alo Sadai Ay 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 Az Yeranenu Kol Atzeyar Az Yeranenu Kol Atzeyar שדי, לכל אשר בו יעלו שדי. איי 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 יעלו שדי, לכל אשר בו יעלו שדי. איי 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 איי. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. It's not on anymore. Shabbat Shalom.